All right. I will call to order the January 7th, 2026 meeting of the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District to order. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Colomé?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Cox? Mr. Saperstein?
Here.
And Chair Dressler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. The first item of business is the election of the chair and vice chair for 2026. Are there any discussions or can I get a motion?
I'm not sure if I'm on here. Am I on?
You're on.
Yeah, sorry. I suggest that we keep the same chair, vice chair. If we've met very rarely in the past even 24 months. So, and I really appreciate you doing what you do. So,
I'm willing to do it if that's all right with everybody else.
And I would be willing to continue as vice chair, though Chair Dressler has done such a great job of handling all of the emergency. It's like being a pro tem that never has to do anything. So
you just jinxed it.
Yeah.
So did you make a motion?
It was discussion, but I'll move that we keep Chair Dressler as chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I need to open public comment on this?
You should.
I'll open public comment.
Chair Dressler, members of the hearing board, we did not receive public comment on this item.
I'll close public comment. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed unanimously. Okay. Next item is announcements for staff.
Do we need vice
Yes.
chair?
Yeah.
I made the motion.
Oh, yes, you do.
separately,
Do the
So
motion for
I
vice chair.
move we retain the same vice chair for the next term.
And I'll open public comment on vice chair.
No public comment on the vice chair.
And I'll close public comment. I have a motion, and I have a second.
Yes, I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passed unanimously. The next item is announcements and staff reports. Are there any announcements or reports from the staff?
Good morning, Chair Dressler and members of the hearing board. District does not have any updates or any additional information to provide at this time.
Chair
Thank you,
Dressler,
Amy. Yes.
we did skip over the approval of the minutes of the July 2nd, 2025 meeting.
I did, didn't I? Okay, the next item is to approve the minutes for the July 2nd, 2025 meeting. Members are allowed to vote for this whether you were here or not. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Minutes are approved. And there's no staff reports. The next is I'll open public comment for any item under the purview of this hearing board that is not on the agenda today.
Chair Dressler, members of the hearing board, we did not receive any public comment nor any speaker slips for items not on the agenda.
All right. Then I will close public comment. The next item is public hearings. We have one public hearing today. Lori, would you please read this item into the record?
Public hearing item F1, case number 2025-04M1, modification of final compliance date. To consider a petition for modification of regular variance from District Rule 206, permit to operate 16120, conditions 2D 4, 9, 11A for thermal oxidizer APCD device ID 109886. Table 3, ACM casting dray and rinse tank emissions. And Table 4 for thermal oxidizer APCD device ID 109886. The variance petition was submitted on December 1st, 2025 for relief from the best available control technology, reactive organic compounds, destruction efficiency requirements, outlet flow rate, and source test requirements for the thermal oxidizer until compliance can be achieved.
All right. I'm going to start with swearing in any the petitioner voices please all stand who you're going to testify in this case and raise your right hand. I will give the oath, and after I administer it, I will start to my right here, your left, and we'll go down the line, and please state your name and affirm the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury in accordance with the laws of California that your testimony in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do you want them to go to the mic?
I do. John Palapinto, I do. Aaron Roth, I do.
Caitlin McNally, I do.
Amy Long with the district, and I do.
All right. All the witnesses have been sworn in. Anybody else? Just making sure. Okay. At this time, I'll ask the petitioner from Man Hummel Water Fluid Solutions to make their case. Please, and I'm sure that you've been counseled on this by district staff, as you make your case, be aware of the 6 findings we're going to have to make in order to grant this variance, and focus our attention and your testimony on those findings. It'll make it a lot easier for us. Go ahead.
All right, can you guys hear me? All right, sounds like I'm on. Nice to see you all again, Chair Dressler and the hearing board. Good morning. Again, my name is Aaron Roth. I am the plant manager of the Goleta facility. I do have a book here of notes, so hopefully we're going to get all the findings laid out for you guys pretty clearly. As we start, just a quick refresher of who we are and what we do. So Man Hummel, our abbreviation is MNUS, so for the rest of the presentation, you will see Man Hummel referred to in that acronym. We have 139 employees. Our principal function is manufacturing water and process filtration elements and membrane. Our focus is on sustainable solutions, specifically in process and water reuse. Our primary product lines are water filtration, process filtration, and flat sheet. So some of our product lines include Tricep and Spiracell RO. These are widely used in industry leaders in the RO space, as well as multiple NF and UF applications as well, which is nanofiltration and microfiltration. I'll move forward. So we have 3 types of casting processes. We have the one that is subject to this oxidizer is the advanced composite membrane, which is ACM. This utilizes the thermal oxidizer, which is device ID 109886, to control emissions captured from the ACM coating process. Per requirement, we are required to undergo source testing annually. So why we are here again, it ultimately is to provide more time to replace the thermal oxidizer. The lead time for this did extend a bit. We were granted a variance to complete the replacement of the oxidizer last year for a due date of January 28 this year, or within 30 calendar days of achieving compliance, specifically with some mechanical parts in the overall process of sourcing and getting all the permits required. We are requesting an extension to this variance to continue production while working towards compliance. We have taken a plethora of steps to maintain compliance, and we will be going over that in this presentation. Okay, so the importance of variance coverage. November 6, 2024 was the initial failure. To get back to compliance with the permit to operate, we proposed to replace or repair the thermal oxidizer to the district. This was approved last year in January, and the district allowed MNUS until January of this year to finish the project. We are going to require additional time, as previously mentioned. This oxidizer is mission critical for our operations at the facility and for this product line. For a piece of equipment that is this robust, I might say, the time needed to source this and to ensure that the functionality of this machine will meet the requirements is extensive. There's lots of engineering work and then coordinating with the district and with the city and with all the different regulatory agencies is quite a bit of quite a process. Each proposal that we received 5 different proposals from different suppliers, so we reached out to a wide base. Again, the most important thing to us is that we do achieve compliance. So 5 suppliers, each one requires a rigorous engineering review and engineering analysis, both from our team and then also the supplier team as well. Once that process was done, then it went down to supplier selection, which included conditions such as evaluating cost, lead time, and ultimate effectiveness of the equipment to the standard. Selecting the wrong system we would sink a bunch of money into something that wouldn't work, which is something no one would be interested in. So that whole process from cradle to grave took around 8 months to get the construction started on the oxidizer. The oxidizer itself, it is a multi-level bill of material machine, meaning there's components that go into components that go into components. And some of these components are very long lead time. There were 4 in particular that were over 20 weeks from the time of the order. We worked with our supplier to bring these in as much as we could to pay for any expedites that we could for these components from our supplier's supplier. But that is something that is contributing to the additional time needed. There's also requirements for structural and mechanical subcontracting related to actually installing the oxidizer into the building and into the property. And these all had to be done in sequence. We needed the parameters from the oxidizer in order to be able to design the pad and all the hookups correctly. Also working with the city of Goleta, because this is a fairly major construction project, we are working with the city of Goleta, and we've been engaged very closely with them to ensure that all proper permits and approvals are granted. If our position is that if procurement, permitting, and regulatory review had occurred within normal and anticipated timeframes, we would not be requesting an extension at this time. However, due to these unexpected and unforeseen delays, we are requesting additional coverage to complete the project. We anticipate having the oxidizer completed in the piece of equipment in April, and we are hoping that the project will complete sometime in Q2 of this year, but there are some things with the city of Goleta that we need to iron out to ensure that timeline is held. So now to the 6 findings. So 6 findings, as you're all well aware. Number 1, applicants unable to comply with district rule. Non-compliance or beyond our reasonable control. Such taking is without corresponding benefit in reducing pollution. We've considered curtailing operations. We'll reduce emissions to our maximum possible extents, and we will monitor and report emissions. 2 implicit findings is that this is not a nuisance, and we are working through every requirement that we can to guarantee expeditious compliance. Okay, so as we stand right now, we're in violation of the following district rules and conditions. Rule 206, condition approval of authority to construct or permit to operate. Condition 1, emissions limitations. The mass emissions from the equipment permitted shall not exceed the values listed in Table 1 and Table 2 of permit to operate 16120. Condition 2D4, operational restrictions, removal efficiency. We must be at 98% or less than 10 ppmv, whichever is attainable. Table 3 is BACT requirements. Table 4 is source test requirements. Condition 9, best available control technology to apply emission control technology in plant design manufacture that represent BACT. And then condition 11A, which is source testing to be performed on an annual schedule. Okay, so for finding 1, actions to comply, we did finalize the purchase and send the PO to our supplier on August 4, 2025. This, again, came after a period of scouring the supply base for adequate suppliers, performing initial discussions, engineering reviews, ensuring that the product would work as designed and meet the requirements, and then negotiation with the supplier to for the best result for MNUS. The authority to construct was issued on November 7 by the district, and a new location was originally requested to be found. On June 25, 2025, the consulting firm responsible for the monitoring wells asked the Central Coast Water Quality Control Board if the 2 monitoring wells located at the proposed location could be abandoned. On November 4, one of the monitoring wells was determined to be that we would deflect, but the wells could not be abandoned. So that kind of changed the location plans a little bit. We have revised the site plan, and we are in the process of submitting that to the city of Goleta. I think that's this week, correct?
That's correct.
This week, okay. I already mentioned the land use permit was submitted to the city of Goleta on November 4. The requirements for the applications are as follows. The application, the project description, the proof of documentation from the district regarding the project, existing and proposed site plans, archaeological assessment, justification statement, thermal oxidizer general arrangements, and pictures of site. The application was not fully submitted due to the conjunctive parking agreement. In our original proposed location, there would have needed to be a parking agreement to comply with city code. With that and the water or the well monitoring, it was decided to change the location where that is not needed anymore, which is allowing us to complete the submission shortly. The geotechnical soils report was completed on November 24, 2025. The planning department will review this to ensure that structural plans can be approved. And again, progress reports of where we are submitted monthly to the board. So finding 2, non-compliance due to conditions are beyond our reasonable control. Permit to operate 16120 requires an annual source testing. Again, in November of 2024, the source test failed. We contacted a third-party vendor and performed a visual inspection. Nothing firm was determined there, so we had to disassemble the unit to actually get inside to the pipes, where that inspection in Q1 of last year did reveal deteriorating pipes, which is natural degradation due to age. This had been here since 1992. Because we had passed source testing and this was a non-visible item, not really known until we took it apart that the piece of equipment was in this condition. So again, 3 distinct casting operations are prescribed in that permit to operate. The thermal oxidizer is specifically in the second process, which is that ACM process. If we are not able to operate that, it will cause us to close down, as it is very integral to our operations and to our entire product line for the worldwide business. And even though it feeds into the other casting process as well, so if we shut down one, it's like turning off the water, and it won't keep going. The operations before and after won't be able to be done. The procurement process is managed through Mann-Hummel Global, and we do have a very strict policy. We're estimating the capital expenditure of this to be significant to the point where it requires board approval. So far, we've spent over $300,000 on this and expect to spend quite a bit more than that. So because of this, the process for sourcing is very strict and very controlled. Again, making sure that we reach out to a sufficiently representative supplier base and ensuring that the product will actually work. That combined then with negotiating terms to be as favorable to the business as possible. So again, from the start to the purchase order was approximately 8 months through all of those different steps. These timelines were dictated by corporate governments and also external vendor activities and were beyond our control. For the city requirements, there are a lot of city requirements for just putting in a pad. These requirements are significant. The first one was the conjunctive parking agreement, which requires when you are under the permitted amount of parking spaces to get a signed parking agreement on the deed from an adjacent property owner, and it has to be within 500 feet of the place of business. So because originally the location determined was going to take parking, we needed to go find that parking somewhere else. So go knocking door to door and getting something like that on title is not ideal for the other property owners. So when that didn't work, and that also combined with the wells, we were able to find a different site. So those two things, the monitoring wells and in the parking requirements, which are requirements from the city, did add to the timeline of this. So we were required to abandon the original site location, and again, having to redraw out plans for the new area also did add to the timeline and was out of our control. Let's see if I need anything else on here. So yeah, so the new site location we do believe is going to be better, and this was confirmed with a meeting with the city of Goleta this week, that we should be clear to submit the process now. But again, this did add to the timeline. Okay, finding 3. Such taking is without corresponding benefit in reducing production. If we were required to immediately comply, there may be a slight decrease in ROC emissions. Condition 2 mandates a 98% reduction. Our testing is estimating that we're running at 89% control efficiency. We have adjusted some of the speeds that we've run in the ACM line to reduce the amount of inflow going through, to reduce the emissions that are there. The upgrade will, again, require time and resource for the permitting process installation. The burden would be very significant and would cause the immediate closure of casting operations and imminent closure of the entire business. Revenue loss for 1 month would be approximately $1.5 million. The fixed costs paid would be $1 million, so the total monetary loss for a 1 month shutdown would be about $2.8 million. In addition, we do not expect a public nuisance as we are in, is expected to be less than the hardship if compliance is required against the benefit to the public if pollution is curtailed by compliance. We are also in an industrial park, and there is a lot of industrial equipment that's out there, so we do not anticipate there being a nuisance. Considering curtailing operations, finding 4. We have considered, and we would consider the option of curtailing operations, but as mentioned, both in what I just mentioned, ACM is very integral to the facility and to the product line and to the business. There would be significant workforce implications for all 139 employees that we have, and also for the sustainable product that we do produce. Finding 5 will reduce emissions to the maximum extent feasible. Obviously, we're working to minimize emissions. I mentioned that we'd slowed the speed, so we have slowed the line speed down from 18 feet a minute to 15 feet a minute. We have delayed some long-term orders with membrane customers to reschedule for when we anticipate this being in. We do expect that the increased emissions from the oxidizer would be balanced by the decrease in emissions from the other 3 permitted process, so that the facility limits are not in exceedances. We do conduct periodic internal testing to make sure that it's not accelerating in its deterioration, and we are seeing that it's holding roughly steady. Schedules and timelines, as mentioned, have been adjusted and optimized to give ourselves the best chance. And samples are collected monthly to collect the pollutants and determine whether we're in regulatory limits. We do validate the flow rates of the oxidizer. We do operational checks. And this way we can identify any potential issues that would be shown as an acceleration of the deterioration. Finding 6. Applicant will monitor and report emissions. So we've been providing monthly reports to the district, and we have records of all of that. We do gather data from a third party, and we also do internal testing. So we do both, and we have been collecting the data as required from the district. So we've been conducting the monitoring, weekly record keeping of solvents used, weekly calculation of emissions of ACM, and calculated excess emissions due to the reduced control efficiency. The excess emission fees are estimated at $2,000, which we're willing to pay as soon as possible. The solvent emissions and other processes are calculated using the methodologies of attachment B, which is on here. I think it's too small for you guys to see, but it is on our permit. If you would like to take a look. It's very advanced. I don't want to get into it. We've been monitoring our other casting operations as well, and seeing what kind of decrease that there is that we do have. As far as the two implicit findings, not a nuisance. Again, we're in an industrial location on that same street as the train station, and a lot of construction going on there. The emissions to not exceed permit limitations. We are, based on the analysis of the current operational data, we have not created an undue burden on the surrounding community or environment, nor will it result in nuisances such as excessive noise, odor, harmful pollutants. We have committed to maintain compliance with all applicable standards and implementing best practices to the best of our ability. Other requirements to guarantee expeditious compliance. Actually, sorry, I skipped ahead. The decision to operate under the granted variance is grounded in the understanding that the adjustments will remain within acceptable thresholds, ensuring that the operation does not result in any new or exacerbated nuisance conditions. As such, the variance will not alter our ability to meet our environmental responsibilities, nor will it lead to any harmful or disruptive impacts to the neighboring areas. The vendors that we chose, again, we had 5 vendors. We chose the one that had the shortest lead time in order to accelerate this through. We did spend a bit more than we needed to, but this was important to us to get this done as soon as we could. And again, it involves consultation from a wide breadth of industry, both from the civil side, from the construction side, and then from the technology side behind the oxidizer. So we do have an established timeline, construction schedule, and milestones with clear targets for returning to compliance. And these increments of progress are closely reported and are communicated on a monthly basis. And we've continued and will continue to inform the required agencies about the progress and changes to the timeline to ensure that transparency is maintained. So the expected delays. The regular variance coverage of 1 year was pursued in good faith. However, we were not able to achieve compliance in the given time due to several reasons beyond our control. Again, the main ones are the design and subsequent redesign of the equipment to meet the best available control technologies with our given inputs, the mandatory procurement processing, and extended lead time for replacement parts. The replacement is a much more robust piece of equipment, and obviously technology has changed a lot in the last 30 years, so this was like starting from scratch. So the engineering work and technical work that Matt has helped us closely with has been extensive, but we do believe that with this extra time we have been able to get something that will work. The long lead times beyond our control. The manufacturer has some key mechanical components that I mentioned, the ones there were 4. Temperature control valve, combustion burner, and flow control valve, all were 20 weeks or more. These are obviously very essential as they set the key operating parameters of the equipment. And if these were not designed and manufactured robustly, then we would have a thermal oxidizer that did not work. These delays are driven by manufacturer production schedules, industry-wide supply chain constraints, and limited availability of specialized components. And we believe these are outside of our control since we can't get them to prioritize orders. We've tried, and we've pulled it as far left as we can. The projected completion time of the project is around the end of April 2026, based on manufacturer schedule, with a potential worst-case scenario of September if additional regulatory and contracting delays occur, specifically around the city. The subcontractors have been communicated with that these are critical timelines that we must hit. The other one is the procurement process. So it is subject to mandatory corporate CapEx and procurement guidelines, which require completion of engineering scope and specs prior to purchase, competitive review of qualified vendors, and contractual and commercial review by procurement leadership. These requirements did prevent earlier speculative purchasing of components during the initial variance period. Once we did finalize the engineering requirements and procurement approvals were obtained, we placed the orders the next day. The parts were not acquired during the initial variance period before the order was placed, again, because we needed to know what we needed in order to make a robust piece of equipment that will meet district requirements. We are still committed to achieving compliance as expeditiously as possible, and we believe we've taken all reasonable actions within our control to advance the project. So, City of Goleta, this is important. So, we will require additional time for the approval of the land use permit with the City of Goleta. We're estimating 2 to 3 months for approval. The application was submitted on November 4. And again, I had mentioned the two requirements that did push that timeline out that have since been rectified. On January 5th, so on Monday of this week, we had a meeting with the City of Goleta to give them an update on the application, where we informed them we would be changing the location, and therefore a couple of the requirements of the application would be lifted due to the improved location. The other landlords would not sign the conjunctive parking agreement. The monitoring wells were not allowed to be abandoned. And so those are moving forward with the application. Potential delays that are still on the schedule are building and electrical use permit delays, GC availability, and if there's any unexpected land use conditions from the planning department. So our monitoring reporting is up here. So we have submitted monthly reports. December's will be submitted on January 15th when we receive it. We will continue to reduce emissions to the maximum extent possible. We will continue to submit monthly reports, and we will continue to provide the district with transparent updates over our timelines and key milestones. You can see the increments of progress that we expect, and again, these are what we'd be submitting. So the final authority to construct was issued on November 7 by the district. The initial land use permit was submitted on November 4 and will be resubmitted very shortly based on the new site location. The archaeological assessment, authority to construct, site and grading plans, and thermal oxidizer general drawings all have been submitted to the City of Goleta and are awaiting approval and feedback. And the additional planning departments, structural, civil, and electrical are still in progress. So to close, we believe that given the specific circumstance, a variance extension would allow us to continue operations while implementing the necessary corrective actions and measures needed to achieve full compliance. So at this time, we are respectfully requesting the opportunity to continue operating the thermal oxidizer under the terms of the regular variance and to postpone future source testing until the implementation of the new thermal oxidizer. Our commitment is to continue working closely with the district to ensure compliance as quickly as possible. We've been with the community for many years. We originally started in 1981. And we mean a lot to a lot of people in our community and our longtime employees. And so it's my responsibility to make sure that we take care of them and we take care of the environment that they live in. So ensuring that our actions have not had any negative impacts is paramount to make sure that public health and environment are maintained. So Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Does the district have anything to add to this?
Good morning, Chair Jessler. The district does not have anything further to add. We do support the variance and the timeline that they have requested for the full year.
Thank you, Amy. Okay. At this point, before I open public comment, I'm going to ask the board members if they have any questions of the petitioner.
The monitoring wells, what are they associated with? Your business or somebody adjacent?
Adjacent.
Long time groundwater problem?
I mean, it predates, I mean, I think these guys can speak a little bit more in detail, but it predates my time here.
When the business was sold,
Matt, can you speak into the mic, please? Thank you.
when the Manhummel bought the business, the previous owner was called Tricep, and Tricep was responsible for the spilled material. That material was one chemical that was used, and that chemical has been phased out of the whole process. And so that contractor is responsible for working with the regional board to get closure for just that area. It's a very extensive array of wells, and they submit quarterly reports to the water board, and all results looked good. It was permitted by the city of Goleta back in 2019, and it was called temporary, so temporary comes soon.
Sorry, I thought you meant site versus business. It's the same site, previous business. And it was 2016 was the sale, so it was 9 years ago, almost 10.
And also, originally, the original site plan, where it is where the monitoring wells are at the moment. But since we cannot obtain that conjunctive parking agreement, and we had to change another location, and then finally another location. So there's 3 locations that we were looking at.
So what's the new location going to be? Do you still need to decide that, or? Do you
No,
have that?
it's been decided. It's more central within the property, so it's actually less visible from the street. We think it's a superior location.
It's also originally approved under a land use permit back in 2020, I believe, or
2014.
2014, I'm sorry. And it was approved as a mechanical courtyard, so you can actually store mechanical equipment in that area. So when we had our meeting with the City of Goleta Planning Department, they are in approvals of this location.
It's actually, there was a previous district permitted oxidizer for another process, and it was operated there, and it was approved by the city of Goleta back in 2014. So it should go so smooth, but
You showed I think you showed a picture of the shell of the thermal oxidizer as your first picture in your slide deck. Is that what's being replaced in its entirety, or you're rejiggering the internals of that? I'm just curious. You don't need it.
Yeah. So this slide,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's a brand new.
So this
all your
red
trash.
piece of equipment
Yeah,
will
that's-
be gone. Yeah, yeah.
We'll have to find a trash can big enough.
So during the installation of the new equipment, I'm assuming, is the existing equipment going to continue operating until the new equipment is in, or is it in the same location?
It's a different location entirely. So this picture, that building is our building that is back there. The new location would be on the other side of the building. So we would either be running through this, and then when the new one is ready and has been commissioned, then we'll switch.
Okay. Yeah. One other question. There was a solvent that was redacted, and I'm assuming that was for trade secret protection purposes, just to make sure that that's not, an air toxic, that the district would have looked at that in reviewing it, and/or a potential occupational hazard to your workers.
I don't think so.
No, it's not a listed air toxic, federal or state.
I have one question. As I understood, and maybe from the testimony, and I wanted to make sure I heard this directly, is that the violation appears to be a failure to achieve the best available control technology standard, not an exceedance of the emission limits at the facility. Is that correct?
So we are, obviously, best available control technology is a failure. We have been testing our results. If you could, what are the results that we have for the emissions?
So for the past 6 months or 7 months, it's been averaging around 89% destruction.
But as far as the emission limits that are listed in the permit, as pounds per hour or tons per year, everything, are you still in compliance with those?
The pounds per day is probably, for the process, is probably over the pounds per day on certain days, but the whole facility is lower, so the facility is not exceeding the permit limitation.
Okay. Caitlin?
Thank you. Is this on? Okay. Chair Dressler and members of the hearing board, Caitlin McNally from the district. If it's okay, I can
Sure.
address from the district's perspective the answer to that question. So what we've seen in the monthly reports is that they don't have excess emissions beyond their permit daily and annual emission limits. However, the emission limitations condition does require that they meet BACT, so that's why that is listed as a condition of the variance. And so they are not currently in violation of their daily and annual emission limits. However, there may be a period of time during the transition between the old thermal oxidizer and the new thermal oxidizer that they could exceed that, depending on how long it takes. So just wanted to clarify why the emission limit condition is in the variance, because they are in violation of the BACT part of that condition.
That's how I understood it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question?
Before you leave, Caitlin, with the now 30 years better, hopefully better, do you expect to go back and revisit all of the permit conditions and make them consistent with this best available technology, or does that not happen in the process?
I don't understand the question.
Well, so now we're moving from 1990s vintage technology to 2020. Is there opportunity to revisit the overall pollution limits on them?
So I'll double check, but I do believe the new permit that they referenced that was issued in November does require the current best available control technology emission limits for a thermal oxidizer.
And would that also shrink the actual emissions limits? Or?
I'll need to double check that.
Okay.
Yeah, the current ATC that you issued went from 98% to 99%.
Oh, well.
Right.
So stack emissions are cut in half for this process.
In half? Wow.
Okay. Does that answer
Yeah,
your question
yeah.
then? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from the board?
I do have some, I guess, comments on the reasonableness of the timeline and such. I mean, I also work in corporate capital equipment procurement, and 8-month cycle time for down select with 5 vendors and funding authorization is reasonable, in my opinion, although it seems unreasonable. So I think, and then I think some of the subcomponent lead times, I think that also is not surprising that it's 4 months. I mean, I have a project where we're trying to buy a fitting that would, size of your hand, and it's 6-month lead time, even though it seems like a very standard component. So yes, I think that's also something that I think is reasonable and outside of the petitioner's control.
Thanks for that perspective. At this point, I'm going to open public comment on this issue.
Chair Dressler, members of the hearing board, we did not receive any public comment on this item.
Then I will close public comment. And I will bring this item back to the board. And I think what we need to do is make sure that we can make all these findings. I think we've had a very good presentation. And from my perspective, that we have heard testimony that the petitioner will be or is in violation of the district rules, specifically the BACT requirement. They also testified that the reason for the delay in this project and the reason that this petition, or that this variance timeline needs to be extended is due to items beyond their reasonable control. Board Member Cook has articulately expressed his belief that all of those time delays sound standard in this type of business and out of their control. Also, part of that that control was having to go through various government agencies who have their own timelines that don't really consider the air pollution control district's timelines or this hearing board's timelines, and out of which this hearing board is not in control. So I think we can make that, that finding number 2 pretty easily. The closing or taking would be without a corresponding benefit to reducing air contaminants, and as we just heard, that this is not an issue of excess emissions so much as it is failure to meet the requirement for best available control technology. So shutting this business down would not actually have an air quality benefit, and by significantly reducing the emissions from this facility, especially the ones that are out of compliance with the BACT. Finding number 4, they went through a long discussion talking about curtailing operations. They have made some changes into their process in order to do some curtailment. So not only did they consider curtailing, they have done some curtailing. So we can make that finding. During the variance, they will keep the emissions as low as they can. We also heard that testimony, and once again, they're not exceeding their plant-wide emission limits. That is another factor in making this finding. Finding number 6, that they are going to continue to take actions to make sure that the line operates as efficiently as possible, and during this whole process. I believe that we can make all these findings. Does anybody have anything to add, or do they have any concerns about any of the findings?
No concerns. I may be mixing regulatory requirements up. Is there a limit on how many of these variances we can grant?
I'll refer that question to council.
And I don't know why somewhere I thought maybe 2 times. I suppose, so the only immediate question is there's nothing that prohibits
It's been
us
my
from-
understanding that we're limited in how much time we can give.
Maybe that's what I'm
without having another hearing.
Okay.
And then we have to make, if we exceed that time, we have to include increments of progress as conditions in the variance, which this variance has increments of progress written into it. So even if that exceeded the time that the Health and Safety Code envisions, we are meeting that requirement as a board by having the increments of progress in there.
And I'm not looking to create an issue where there isn't one.
That's my understanding as well.
Otherwise, I support the granting of the variance. I'm ready to make a motion if nobody has other questions.
Are we ready for a motion? Go ahead.
I move to approve the variance.
Could you amend that to say that we have made the findings?
Yep, certainly. We've made the 6 findings. I really appreciate the applicant's testimony, and I move to approve the variance.
I will second and amend that we've also made the 2 implicit findings in addition to the normal 6.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Lori, do we have to call roll on this?
We don't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. You have your variance.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. For the next item, we have the administrative agenda. We can pass this administrative agenda on a single vote. The first thing I'm going to do is ask if there's any, I'm going to open public comment on the administrative agenda.
Chair Dressler, members of the hearing board, we did not receive any public comment on the administrative agenda.
Then I will close public comment. Do any board members wish to pull any item?
I had a question on some of the items. So I noticed that Sable was on there a couple of times with their permit, but they're also a newer company. So I was just curious about how the permit transfer process went for them to be able to submit a request for variance.
I'll ask district to address that question.
Yep. There you go.
Hello, this is Caitlin McNally from the district. For the Sable permits, those were transferred under, we do have a district transfer rule that's more administrative, and they did meet the requirements of that rule and transferred the permits within the timeline required. So that was done a while ago. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head. And it was done prior to the variances listed in the administrative agenda.
Okay, so they followed the district rules. Great.
Yes.
Yeah, my question also related to the Sable issues. I think there were 7 different variance requests that showed up in the administrative agenda. And without, opening a huge can of worms, it's clear that, all of the issues surrounding this Las Flores facility are, at this point, quite controversial. So I'm not questioning whether or not the specific findings necessary for the district were met here. But, if we look at our legislative team, starting with Senator Schiff, Monique Limon, and Salud Carbajal, there's we're facing now, I think, and you can clarify this, that the only action that's been permitted for transfer of the fluids from the platforms that are part of Sable are 2 storage tanks at Las Flores. And there is no permission to then extract any of that material. So I would assume at some point, if not already accomplished, that those tanks are filled and that the liquid product can't be transported anywhere at this point. Is that correct?
I want to double check with Hearing Board Counsel if that falls within the purview of the agenda for this meeting, or if we need to discuss that separately.
So I think you could direct staff to come back with those answers if you don't have those, if they are outside of the scope of the matters that are on the agenda.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And given the controversies that are surrounding this, I think including the fact that right now the U.S. Department of Transportation has taken over this 120-mile facility fully within the state of California between Las Flores and processing facility in Kern County. I would like to see this reported back to this hearing board in terms of any future requests for variance that Sable has for the facilities that are in control of the APCD, particularly in light of some of the issues over whether or not Sable has skipped state requirements and is a bit slippery in terms of their compliance record.
All right. Any other comments?
Yeah, could you clarify a little bit more what you're hoping the district can provide, like a report on current permit levels, or is there like something else specific that you want to see before granting future variances?
Well, I mean, I think in light of all of the public controversy that I'm aware of, I would like to raise the bar in terms of district's review of any permit variance requests that come from Sable. I mean, it would be...
I'd like to address that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as the chair, if there's an emergency variance request, I deal with it, okay? The way that, as a hearing board chair, that I'm required, the findings I'm required to make in order to address variance requests like this are very specific and outlined in the Health and Safety Code. If it's not going to create a nuisance, if it was truly out of their control, then, and I can find that, and it's a short term, and that they will come in compliance within the short term of the variance, the 30 days or 15 days or whatever it is, then I'm actually compelled to grant that variance by the Health and Safety Code. And so, in fact, I'm not allowed to give them, to consider other items, other issues that they're dealing with other agencies. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense, and I fully appreciate it. I think the only thing that I would like to put on the table is that this new entity. I mean, it's not even clear yet that we're going to be able to. There's legal cases on whether or not Exxon is going to be able to transfer responsibility over to Sable, and so there's enough controversy over this entire facility and process that I just wanted to, raise the issue and raise the bar. But completely appreciate that what the district is responsible for is a review of the specific findings for the emergency application. I did have one question. It's not entirely clear to me what the threshold difference is between something that is reviewed as an emergency variance versus one that is required to show up here as a public hearing.
Typically, emergency variances are required because immediate compliance is not achievable. However, within 30 days, compliance can be achieved. If it goes beyond that, then there's interim variances that will cover them till the next hearing, the next board hearing, and then the board would have to hear it. So anything that goes longer than that. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the administrative agenda?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Chair Dressler,
Aye. Yes.
we do have to, oh, did we already?
I already did public
Okay,
comment,
Then my mistake.
and it passes unanimously. All right. Are there any other items before this board today?
Nope.
Hearing none, thank you. The meeting is now adjourned to February 4th, 2026 at 9:30. The meeting is subject to cancellation if there are no items to be heard. Thank you all.
Thank you.